Welcome everyone. We are going to take program 2 from chapter 4 in Revel. This is the actual answer and it works well. So what we're going to do here is break it down into functions, and we're going to have functions do all our work for us. So our main is going to be very, very little when we get done with it. So this is going to be a long video. I'm going to break it down into several videos, so hopefully you will look at it and totally understand it. So here we have a integer as a choice, and we're getting double, and we're actually keeping pi as 3.1419, which is fine. Then we have declared W, area, width, base, and height. So I know I said that real fast. You can see that here. Then we're having a menu system that prints out what we're going to do here, telling us to enter a choice. We're going to get the choice. Now notice that there isn't any actual error checking in here. So let's look at our switch. It says case 1, that's good. We do that. Case 2 is good. 3 is good. 4 is good. Then we have the default, and basically is saying valid choices are 1 through 3. Run the program again. So we don't really have any error checking at this point in time, that if the user enters the wrong number, we're not going to be able to run the program. So let's start off by addressing what a function is. A function is nothing more than something that is called by the program to accomplish a task, such as making breakfast. That's a task. So, or putting toast in a toaster. That's a task. So you can see here, we can break this into individual tasks by displaying the menu, getting the menu choice, and then we can have a function for each one of these. So this is going to be a lot more manageable. So let's start off with looking at a simple function that just does nothing more than displays the menu. So anything that does not return a value, such as when you do the square root of something, it returns the square root. Well, here we're not going to do nothing more than display the menu. So I'm going to call it display menu. All functions must have parentheses, and in this particular case, we are not actually passing any parameters. Parameters allow you to work on values as defined. Here we're just printing something. So let's go and put a semicolon. This is called a function prototype. So we're using function prototypes in this class, and then what we're going to do is we're going to declare the function definition at the end. So what we do here is we put all our includes here, then our function prototypes, and then if we have any constant doubles or constant integers, we're going to put them up top here so it's visible through the whole program. So more on that. Let's go here and create a definition. So notice that it opens it up here, and it does not have any return or anything like that because we're doing a void. So I'm going to put in display menu so we know what it is, and then I'm going to close it. I don't really like working in these little boxes, but that's just a matter of preferences, and sometimes I do. So let's take this, Cout geometry calculator, and then let's cut all this. And then we're going to go down to the display menu, and we're going to print it. So this does nothing but print. So in here, you would say this menu would display the menu, blah, 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 in your comments. So you will always want to comment your functions. In this video, we're not going to take the time to do that. We may do 1 or 2, but right now I want to make sure that you're comfortable with functions. So right now, if I run this program, we're going to run into a little problem. So let's run it, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And we have the program right here, and it's just standing there. Have no idea what, well, maybe it wants me to annotate. No, it doesn't. So the problem is this right here. Let's close this. Problem is we are not doing anything here. We're just asking the user to input something. So what we need to do is we need to tell the user that we need to display the menu. Now, if I just do this, I will get an error. It may work, it may not, but notice that I'm not doing anything. So there's no parentheses in there. So I'm not getting an error message, but let's see exactly what happens if I do this. And it's right over here. We're in good shape. But right now, we don't want to do that because we want to do it the proper way. So let's put this. We didn't get a compile error, but it also didn't do anything. So let's go to display menu, because what will happen is if we don't have this here. So let's go back here and let's run it again, and let me show you what I'm talking about. Actually, let's put this here and get rid of this. So let me show you what will happen. So the program didn't crash, but what happened is it just totally ignored it. So that is something that I would rather see an error show up, but we didn't get one. So let's put these in now and let's see what happens. And now all of a sudden, look, we have our menu. And then we get an opportunity to enter your choice 1 through 4. So that's just fine. So now we have a choice. So in this particular case, we have a choice of 1, 2, 3, or 4. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to write a program, and we're going to return a double, and we're going to call it get, let's just call it get menu choice. We can enhance it later on, but let's just get menu choice, or let's just choose, let's just do get menu choice. We're going to write another function later on that's going to do almost the same thing. And what we want to do in this particular case is we want to pass in the lowest value and the highest value. So let's go here and we're going to put in an integer and an integer. So we're telling the function that we need to pass in 2 integers, 1 and 2. So let's go now and create the function. And we're going to need a couple of parameters here. So I'm going to call this lowest and highest. So this will be the lowest valid integer, and this will be the highest valid integer, even though we're actually returning a double. Now, one thing that's important, notice this returns 0, 0. You need to make sure that you change this and get rid of the 0, 0. Otherwise, no matter what you put in, it's going to return 0. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create another double, and we'll call it choice. And of course, we're going to initialize it to 0. And I'm going to get rid of this and work on it down here. So I just like to work on it better than in that little box. So now what we need to do is we need to have a Boolean, and we're going to call it, we can call it invalid choice or valid choice. It really doesn't matter. So I'm going to choose valid choice. Let's do that, and we'll initialize it to false because we don't have a valid choice. So we have a variable that we're going to hold choice in, and then we have a Boolean that's going to check it. So now what we need to do is actually get the value of choice. So let's do a do loop, and we'll do while. And I'm going to do something that's not really a good idea. We're going to fix it. So let's choose while valid choice equals 0, false. So this is not a very good way of doing things. So what we're going to do here, instead of doing valid choice equals false, we're going to do proper syntax, which is the preferred way of doing it, and put it in an exclamation point, and that means while it's not a valid choice. So all we have to do here is put in Cout, enter a selection between, and we'll let them know what it is, lowest and highest. Now notice that I do not have an end line here. So let's go and get a cin choice. So let's see what happens now. We're not going to actually get a choice because we have to call this menu function over to get menu choice. So let's go back up to our main function here. We don't need this cin anymore. So let's get choice equals get menu choice. And we're going to pass 1, 4. So the beauty of this is next time we run this program, maybe we have a 5th menu choice. All we need to do here is change this to 5, or a 6th menu choice. All we need to do is change it to 6. So let's get rid of this here. And then let's run the program and see what happens. So now we have a little bit of cosmetic. So let's fix this cosmetic right away. And we need to enter your choice, enter a selection between 1 and 4. So now we have 2 prompts that say the same thing. So let's fix that right now. It's very easy to forget to do it. Let's go into our display menu, because all of this thing display menu should do is display a menu. So let's run it again. And it tells us to, and we need a space here, but that's okay. So let's type in 5 and see what happens. Well, now it keeps telling us we need to enter a number between 1 and 4. So let's do 0. Let's do 60. And let's do -5. So it's going to always do the same thing until we put in a valid choice. So let's try 1, and it's still not working. So why is it not working? And that's because we didn't set how to determine whether we have a valid choice or not. That's a very common thing. So now what we're going to do here is we're going to say valid choice equals, and then our conditions. Our condition means it's got to be greater than or equal to the lowest, and it also has to be less than or equal to the highest. So let's do the first one is choice has to be greater than or equal to the lowest, but it also must be less than, it's greater than, less than or equal to the highest. Now remember that you can't use an or here, because if you type in 50, well, it meets that, yeah, it's greater than the lowest, but it's not higher, but it's not lower or equal to the highest. So you got to make sure that both conditions met here. So let's run it again here. And it tells me to put a selection between 1 and 4. I did not put that space yet. So let's try 5 again. And then let's try 0 again. Let's try 1 this time. Now 1, run the program again. So now we have an issue. Why do we have an issue? We got a 1 to 4. I don't understand. Because we did not return the choice. That's why right away, you always want to choose the value, and you want to return it right away so you don't forget to do it. So that's no big deal. Let's just do choice here, and let's run it again, and I need to put a space here. And let's try it one more time. And let's try again 0. This time let's try 1. Now it worked. That's fine. What I normally do for error checking is right after I get something, just to make sure everything is fine. And had I done this, we would have saw right away that choice return is 0. So let's go and put C out. You chose. I think I got it spelled right that time. Choice. So let's try this time with 2. And we'll just put in 2. Okay, you chose 2. So that looks good. So now notice that I have these red lines. For some reason, Visual Studio does that. But once you run the program a couple of times, and sometimes once you just click somewhere else, it works. Sometimes if you hit the enter key, they disappear. In this particular case, it's not, but it's not stopping you from running the program. So we're good here. So let's take a look at this program one more time. We go down over here, see all the C-outs have that line in there. That's not a big deal. So we have get a menu choice, valid choice is here. So now let's give a message to the user. Say you did not turn in a valid choice. So we'll do if not valid choice, which is basically saying if valid choice is false, let's put in a little error message. See out. You did not enter a valid choice. Please re-enter. And then of course we'll put an end line. So now we're telling the user what to do. All this within one function. So we're good to go. So let's run it one more time. And now we have a little bit more space to do. Let's put in a 5 and say, you did not enter a valid choice. Please re-enter. So now we know what the user has to do. So let's go and see what other things that we can do. So let's take a look at enter circles radius in here. Well, why can't we create a function that allows us to enter a circle's radius? So let's go and do that. We're just going to create the prototype and then we're going to copy the code over here. And we're not going to really do anything right now. We're getting the radius here, but my logic is why should we write the radius here and have to double check the radius here? Why should we have to do the same thing for length? Why should we have to do the same thing for width? So why don't we write a function that gets a number that's greater than 0? Now, radius does say less than 0, but what we want to do is make sure that it's actually greater than 0. So what we're going to do here is just create a function, but we're not going to write anything in it. We're going to create another function that's going to get a number that's greater than 0. So we don't have to continuously write the same thing. Now we can't use the get choice here because we have to get a ending value. We don't know what the ending value is. So we're going to write something where the lowest one is 1. And this would be a great one here where you would be a grader and you want to have a choice, enter a grade, and you want to make sure that's within the specific grade. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to do double, and we'll call it get positive number. And we don't really need to pass anything at this point in time. We could always pass something if we want. And here we're going to make sure that we're getting a positive number. So let's go and create that. And let's do a, we'll call it choice again. Or a number, doesn't matter. Oops. We want a double. And we'll call it number. Now again, I emphasize you want to always make sure that you're commenting your function. This function will do this, so on and so forth. We are not going to have time to do that. So let's just stick with the basics. So now what we want to do right off the bat, we need to return number. And I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so I have some room to work with. So now what I want to do is basically the same thing. Is I need a Boolean. In this particular case, since we did valid, let's do invalid this time. So we'll just go invalid choice, invalid number, whatever you want. And we're going to do the same thing. So let's do cout. Please enter a number greater than 1. Now the problem with this is it will not let you enter 0, but that's okay. We can work on that later on. There's things that we could do that would, such as function overloading. So we're going to overload the function and call the same function, but we're going to pass a parameter with it. So let's go and get our, we need to put that inside a loop. So we're going to do this while we have an invalid choice. Or basically, we're going to keep doing this until we get a choice that's valid. So let's move this up here. And let us get the choice. And then let's put in a couple things. Now, hey, I don't understand. Why is choice? Ah, it's because I called this number. So always look to see what you're calling it first. So we're good here. So now let's go and get positive number. And for the radius here, and I'm going to close this. So let's go here. Instead of getting the radius, let's just put this here. And instead of getting it, let's go radius equals get positive number. And then here, we don't have to worry about it if radius is less. We don't ever have to worry about it because there is no way that the radius is going to be less than 0. But we're going to try it anyway and see what happens. And then notice that this calculates the area. And we're going to do that in our very next video. I'm going to end it after this one and we'll pick up. So let's see what we have here. And we're going to calculate the area of a circle. So you chose 1, enter the circle's radius. Please enter a number greater than 1. So let's put in 0, see what happens. Please enter a number greater than 1. Let's type in -5. That didn't work. So now what I want to do is we're going to use just 1. We know that 1 squared is 1. So our answer should be, if we did this correctly, 3.141619 or something like that. So let's type in 1. here, and it says enter a number greater than 1. So now we have an issue because we needed to be greater than or equal to 1 or greater than 0. This is the point I'm making is when I always say do one thing and test it. So now right off the bat we know we have an issue. So what we're going to do here is go and change the function so that it allows 1. And we'll change this to 0 here. And let's see what happens. So get positive number greater than here. See it in here. Well, invalid choice. So right off the bat, though, we also had an error because we didn't do, I'm giving you a double header. We're not checking to see if it's an invalid choice. So let's go and do invalid choice equals number less than 1. So I'm not going to put in an error message at this point in time. So we're checking it. So very important. Do one thing, check it. Do something else, check it. Let's click here and see what we have. So we're going to type in 1 because we want to get the area of a circle. We chose 1, enter circle's radius. Please. That's cosmetic, which we can fix later on. So now let's do a 1, and let's start off with 0 and see what happens. Enter number greater than 0. So now let's put in 1, and we're getting 3.14159. So everything's working as expected right now. So in our next video, what we're going to do is get a number where we might want to be able to put in a 0. There's several different ways to do that. And one is with a default, one is with a overloaded function. We're going to do it actually both ways, so you'll see exactly how it gets done. So that is it for this video, and I will look forward to seeing you shortly.